digital domain was being very aggressive at the time because they were just at the same time working on Dante's Peak and Titanic. So, you know, their digital pipeline was full all the time. And it was a constant process of, well, let's purge what we can so we can bring in more things. And Fifth Element, you know, had the priority for a while, and then Digital Domain was trying to nudge for priority as Titanic was coming through. But, you know, that was Jim Cameron's project, and nobody's getting in the way of Titanic. And Fifth Element was the project I was involved in of those three more than any. And when that wrapped, I went over to the special effects crew on Dante's and worked on the miniature effects for that. And when that wrapped, then went and did some final shots on Titanic. And so that we had like an engine room sequence where it floods, had a dining room sequence where it gets flooded. It was just a few small last minute things. And I was involved early on, before we started shooting Fifth Element. I was involved in some of the test shots with Jim Cameron, and we had a 25-foot mock-up of the Titanic that, you know, we built it in 9 days, but it looked beautiful. You know, it was the right shape. It was on wheels. It would split in half, and it was something for Jim Cameron to do some test shooting with a little lipstick camera, and I put a little lipstick cam onto a motion control rig and ran that around and used that to come up with reference footage for a storyboard artist. And we did other shots with another piece that broke in half. It was kind of hinged, and it would hinge open, so we played with that, and he did shots, you know, just basically coming up with shots and turning that over to his guys. And so, yeah, my part in that was minimal compared to some of the guys that were up at the Hughes Center, building the big 45-footer. Yeah, I didn't put a single rivet into that, I'm proud to say.
I was put in a position that I had to lead, and I was given 26 people, only like, you know, 5 I knew, and the rest of them were newbies, and so you don't know what they can do, and that's scary because you have no time to find out. You know, it's kind of like biting a cookie. What does this taste like? Well, now it's too late. You bit it, you know. And I was basically came in to be the lead painter for the show. And when I showed up, Gene Rizzardi, who called me in, said, "I'm not quite ready for paint." I'm looking at this boat going, "No, you really aren't. What do you want me to do?" And he says, "I need you to take over the mold department because the molds suck. They're terrible." And I looked at the molds and went, "These are awful." I mean, he says, "Yeah, it's taking an hour to clean parts." That's ridiculous, you know. Yeah, I'm sure they were fast to make, but you're going to pay for it on the other end, big time. So he gave me 6 people I never met before, and I said, "Everybody, here we're going to make molds." And I don't know what you've been told, but considering what I'm seeing here, just forget everything you were told and let's try it my way and see what happens. But if you got a better idea, I want to hear it. But if I don't like it, we're doing it my way. And so we did, and within a week, George Stevens, who was the co-shop foreman with Gene, came over and says, "Thank God you fixed this. We're getting parts that are perfect, and we're getting lots of them." And we made stuff. I made, personally, at the end of the show, I counted them, 140 molds by myself. I didn't really count how many the other people made, but it was easily that many again. And I had a crew of 2 people just casting with pressure pots and showed them the tricks, and they were wonderful. And I had Lori Parkowski, who was a sculptor, and she never did molds, but she had a talent. I mean, she was a sculptor, a very good one. And she picked it up like that. I couldn't correct her molds. I'd say, show her clay up, she would do it. I'd like, we'll pour rubber. Because when the rivets went on, and there were some like over 100,000 rivets that were replaced one at a time. If you've talked to Gene Rizzardi, he'll tell you that nightmare. The problem is that, you know, you had the little patterns, you drill holes and actually put the pinheads in. And, you know, almost even the secretaries came out to do it. And I had to paint this yellow 1-inch stripe on a black hull, the length of 44 feet, and then around again. I needed kind of a straight line, and there was a zone that was flat between the rivets that I could mask. And when you have rivets, you're trying to mask around these things, and luckily I didn't have to because I had a flat. And then I had rivets wandering through, and you have to mask over rivets, and oh, what a nightmare. It just added so much extra time. You never saw the Godzilla, though. Godzilla went on the wreck, and R2 went in the bridge, because there was, windows and walls, and he's right there. I had to kind of hide him, because I knew that if Cameron ever saw him, like a cow, He ended up at $200 million, and of course, there were executives that were having their heads cut off and rolling down the halls at this point, and jumping out the windows, because for the production, it was like, if this doesn't make it, we're dead. You're taking over money, If this isn't a blockbuster, we're dead. And they were panicking, but he kept pulling. But there's a point when there was no money, and they were looking to get rid of people. So seeing the light there, and then in the coming distance, I went, "Hey, boss, can you use it?" I called David Jones. I think they're going to be laying people off. Can you use me? I swear to God, this hand came out of the phone, grabbed my throat, and yanked me through it. I mean, it was that fast. Like, yes, please, now, come. How soon can you be here? I'll find out. And then they sent me over to Fifth Element to fix some painting things that they needed done, and then I went over, and that's when I stepped into the second half of Air Force One with all these cool military jets, huge things that I got to paint. And I mean, it was a real joy. And right behind that, we got Starship Troopers. And so I just stayed on it. We did all that. Cool spaceship models, and I mean, it was a glorious time. I never made so much money in 1 year. But on the other hand, I worked half of the weekends out of that year. And a lot of people are like, Bruce who? But it was a neat time, and I think you'll find everyone you interview that space of year there that was cool. We made neat stuff. We made cool stuff. We made friends. We got new stories. There's a comradeship that happened.